Let's take a look. Why we lost and how we win.
Election is. Who is it a referendum on? The assumption of Republicans was it's got to be a referendum on the party in power. It has to be. The party in power is doing a terrible job, and it's unified. They have.
Well, that is what a midterm election is. It is a referendum in the party on power, unless the party that is not in power is really, really bad, which is what happened in this circumstance.
The House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency. All the bad stuff is their fault. In many of these races, the referendum turned into a referendum not on Joe Biden and the Democrats, but into a referendum on the particular weird, out-of-the-box candidates that Republicans chose in many of these areas.
What is this fucking music, dude? What is happening in the background of this video?
Candidates who made many independents feel insecure. And this was a major problem. It was a serious problem for the Republicans. Well, folks, we got to recap that midterm 2022 election. What happened? What went wrong? How do Republicans fix it? And what kind of opportunities lie ahead for them?
I just got to point out one thing here. No matter what the Ben Shapiro says, a reminder that, like, he is just as responsible for the narrative that was set by the National Republican Party that hyper-focused on, like, kitty litter and, like, trans children or whatever the fuck, significantly more than anything else. So if he turns around and acts like that's, exclusive to Trump, or if he turns around and acts like that is like, a Republican Party thing that they need to fix, like, remember that it's your fault, brother. You're the one who did it. You are a culture warrior. Don't act like you are the one, you were, focusing on the issues, which, by the way, that's a whole different subject that I've been covering for the past week, but we can talk about if you were to hit the issues, how that would look like for the National Republican Party. Probably not great.
Them if they do. This video is sponsored by Ring. What went wrong is the big question, because here's the thing. It was supposed to be a red wave, or at least a red tide, and instead it turned into a red trickle, by which I mean it looks like the Republicans are going to end up with bare control of the House, a very, very small majority as opposed to what should have been a sweeping majority. They may end up in control of the Senate. That is going to depend, it looks like, on a Georgia runoff, which doesn't look particularly amazing because it's Herschel Walker against Raphael Warnock, and Walker doesn't happen to be a particularly strong candidate. So what went wrong? What exactly happened here? Well, the answer is actually fairly obvious. The Republicans ran a lot of crappy candidates. Where Republicans ran strong candidates who were not associated with out-of-the-box crazy ideas, they won, and they won big. The big contrast in 2022 is between Florida, where Republicans absolutely cleaned up, and, say, the Georgia gubernatorial race. Where
like, how many times did Ben Shapiro talk about voter fraud? Not in this cycle, and not like hyper specific to Donald Trump, but as a rule of thumb, any Republican that says, oh my God, this election stolen theories that were like individualized by Donald Trump was just such a bad narrative. Whenever they say that, remind them, or at least like look through voter fraud, key search voter fraud on their fucking media outlets, or key search voter fraud on their own fucking Twitter threads. And you will see, for like the past 30 fucking years, the National Republican Party has been screaming about voter fraud. It came across like an individual loser crying foul over and over again when Donald Trump personalized it. However, the reality is that the argument, and I've said this for years now, okay? Trump is not the problem. The Republican Party is the problem. And when liberals try to say it's just Trump, they are missing everything. When Republicans try to identify the problem as just Trump, they are literally cooking themselves. Trump is just a victim of his own success. The Republican Party in general is now a victim of their own success.
Where Brian Kemp did really well against Stacey Abrams, or Texas, where Greg Abbott did really well against Beto O'Rourke. The Democrats poured tons of money into these places. The contrast is those places versus all the other places where the Republicans wildly underperformed. And here I'm talking about Pennsylvania, where they ran Doug Mastriano, who got absolutely smoked by Josh Shapiro in the gubernatorial race, or New Hampshire, where Don Baldock got smoked by Maggie Hassan. These are the races where things should have gone differently because all the fundamental
Bro, his criticisms are identical to the fucking liberals on CNN, by the way. It's pretty funny.
Underlying factors were in favor of Republicans here. A 43% approval rating for the current president of the United States. 75% of Americans in exit polls saying that the economy was moving in the wrong direction. 28% approval rating for Joe Biden among independents. 40-year high in inflation. Chaos in the Middle East. Breaking out again thanks to Iran. Right? Like tons.
Yeah, totally, dude. Another lock that I had, by the way, I just want to point. I know I'm posting dubs right now. Remember when everyone was like, oh my God, Joe Biden and his Afghanistan pullout policy is going to be genuinely awful and the media in unison, both the Republicans and the Democrats, both in liberal media, were pummeling him. How many voters do you think voted on the Afghanistan pullout policy, you think? How many voters were like, man, I really can't get myself to vote for Joe Brandon here because of the Afghanistan withdrawal? That policy was popular. That was absolutely popular then. The media tried really fucking hard to make it seem like it wasn't. Everyone thought it was good. Everyone. The real awfulness is not the pullout policy. The real awfulness was quite literally starving the Afghan population. And that's ongoing. But because Americans don't give a fuck about brown people, especially Muslims, no one even cares about the Democratic Party's current foreign policy on Afghanistan, which is disastrous. It's murderous. It is an ongoing human rights abuse. But obviously that's not going to, lead to any sort of domestic punishment because no one gives a fuck. That's the unfortunate reality.
Tons of stuff happening in the world right now. None of it particularly good for the Democrats, which is why, if you looked at the polls, all the movement in the last weeks was toward the Republicans. So what went wrong? The answer is Republicans assumed in a lot of these races that the fundamentals against Joe Biden were so strong they could literally go down to the homeless shelter, pick up some people, and put them up for races. That is not how politics works. And this is what the independents showed. So many of those same independents who didn't like Joe Biden voted for a Democratic candidate because they looked at the Republican candidate and they said, this is not somebody I can trust with governance. This is the constant story. The more solid the Republican candidate, the better the candidate did. I know this seems like tough stuff, but it really is not. Republicans made a bad habit of, in primaries, picking candidates who seemed attractive because they were fight people, but they didn't actually guarantee the possibility of solid governance, solid, sober stuff once they were in office. See, think of politics like a cake. Okay, and the cake has a couple of elements. It's got the cake, it's got the icing. Republicans are very attracted by the icing. We love the icing. The icing is the social culture war kind of stuff, the sexy stuff where you're fighting against the
sexy stuff, like fucking freaking out about like the permanent war narrative, freaking out about your neighbor being demonic, thinking that like teachers at school are teaching your children that like you should be upset about being a white person and also transing your children actively. That sort of stuff. No, dude. No. That icing, and he is right, that is icing. That is the only part of the fucking narrative that is actually tangible for the Republican base, because the other part of the narrative is gross and awful and anti-poor, and most people nowadays understand that reality. It's just a fundamental problem within the Republican Party in general, and it's not about Donald Trump.
Wild equity agenda of the Democrats. You're fighting against the transing of the children, all that.
Yeah, see, he's saying it. He literally, dude, that is what fucking got you to lose, idiot.
All this stuff's super important. Icing is great. You can't have a great cake without the icing. But if the cake is icing and what is underneath the icing is actually not cake, it's just a bag of flaming garbage, the icing isn't going to help. And so Republicans kept picking candidates where there was no evidence these people were going to be good at governing. They'd been at like QAnon rallies 6 months beforehand. That is not going to win. And here's the thing. If you actually wish to see conservatism win, you need people to win their races. They need to win their races. This is not all that shocking. That was the big problem here. People got really happy about the underlying bad conditions for Democrats, and they assumed they could put up a bag of crap, and that bag of crap would then be elected to high office. And that is typical.
Here's why Ben's wrong. He's saying you can't give people only icing. You have to give them cake. Like, you have to give them the foundations. He's wrong. That's not true. Because what are the foundations? You have to, what do you think, like, promoting deregulation and tax cuts for the wealthy is going to be a good way? Like, it's going to be a fucking leading message? Like, I guess to a certain degree, if you can lie, right? And the Democrats have no counter for it. But like, people ultimately are not going to think like, oh, we should cut Social Security. Like, I'm going to go and vote for a Republican because they're cutting Social Security. Okay? Especially when the 65 plus voter base is leaning 45% more, by 45 percentage points more towards the Republican Party. You can't fucking run on cutting grandma's spending. You can't run on killing grandma. That's the literal cake. That is at the heart of the conversation. Republicans literally want to run on wedge issues specifically because the other shit that they want to push is gutting these Social Security and entitlements and benefits packages that are already in a state of disarray in this goddamn country further, with no solution in sight.
Typically not how it works for Republicans. You have to demonstrate, at best, like Ron DeSantis, that you've got cake, you're really good at governance, and you can do the icing really well. You can fight the media. You can fight the social issues. You can fight woke corporatism. Right? All those things you can fight. But the cake has to be there. Or like Brian Kemp, who fought a few of the culture issues, but more was just the cake. There wasn't like tons and tons of icing. It was mostly just cake. Or Mike DeWine in Ohio, who earned the trust of his population in Ohio to the extent that he won over 60% of the vote in Ohio. J.D. Vance, by contrast, won about 53% of the vote because he was a more controversial candidate. Well, folks, with the holidays coming.
What the fuck? What do you mean J.D. Vance was more controversial? What? Why was J.D. Vance controversial?
The party in power, it has to be. The party in power is doing a terrible job, and it's unified. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency. All the bad stuff is their fault. In many of these races, the referendum turned into a referendum not on Joe Biden and the Democrats, but into a referendum on the particular weird, out-of-the-box candidates that Republicans chose in many of these areas. Candidates who made many independents feel insecure. And this was a major problem. It was a serious problem for the Republicans. So, what does that mean for 2024 and looking forward? What it means is that if the Republicans look at the underlying trends, Republicans did well with black voters, they did well with Hispanic voters, they did better with suburban women. In the generic congressional ballot, Republicans will have won this election.
When Ben Shapiro says Republicans did well with black voters, he's literally talking about like 6%. Okay? Just, I want people to understand. When Ben Shapiro or Republicans, or even the New York Times does this sometimes, when they say like, wow, they're really doing well with the black vote here, they mean 5, like literally they mean like 5 to 6%. Okay? Which is crazy to consider. That is insane. That is considered a fucking legitimate, a legitimate W. It's not.
By somewhere between 2 and 4 points. That's not a bad election on the surface of it. It just didn't materialize in many of the key races, again, because of bad candidate choice. And many of those candidates were tied up in the Donald Trump desire to see people talk incessantly about the 2020 election and his claim that the election was stolen from him. This is why, in the immediate aftermath of the election, you had Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social messages about Don Baldock being insufficiently sycophantic to him. He picked Don Baldock. He picked Don Baldock in New Hampshire specifically because Don Baldock denied the results of the 2020 election. That's why Trump loved him. And then Don Baldock was asked, did Trump win the election? And he said no. And then he lost. And Trump said, well, it was because he refused to go along with me. No, President Trump, that is not what happened. Don Baldock was a bad candidate. You picked him in the primaries. That one's on you. Same thing happened with Mehmet Oz. Apparently, Donald Trump endorsed Mehmet Oz, who barely eked out a primary victory against.
How is he going to say Mehmet Oz is a bad candidate? Like, if you're saying Don Baldock is a bad candidate because he's an extremist, that's fine. That's true, especially for the state, right? But Mehmet Oz is not an extremist by any means. So why the fuck is he going to try to point that same finger of blame at Mehmet Oz then? Because Dr. Oz quite literally ran an infinitely better campaign than Herschel Walker, okay? He did. Or he didn't run a great campaign, but his approvals, his name recognition carried him. And the things that he was pushing for, the ideas that he was pushing for in the short period of time that he actually did, step foot inside of the fucking Pennsylvania borders was literally to talk about like how he's going to run from the middle.
Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania on the basis that Melania liked Dr. Oz on TV. And that is not how you pick candidates. President Trump picked Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania. He endorsed him. He wanted him. Why? Because Mastriano said that the election of 2020 was stolen. Regardless of what you believe about the election of 2020, if your main issue in 2022 is election 2020, you're going to lose. It's going to be a serious problem for you as a candidate. So moving forward toward 2024, Republicans are going to have a choice. Right now, they have the Florida model. The Florida model is Ron DeSantis took a state that he won by 30,000 votes in 2018, 0.4% of the vote, and he transformed that into a 20-point victory. He won that state by 1.5 million votes. That was his margin of victory. The rest of the state went red as well. Republicans picked up 4 House seats in Florida. Marco Rubio walked away with a 16 percentage point win over Val Demings. That was supposed to be a close race. What happened in Florida? Ron DeSantis is good at governing. He is good at organizing. He's a good candidate. Your choice. Do you want the candidate who grows majorities?
I think like places like Florida, I can point to every single place where the Democratic Party underperformed. And if you point to any of those fucking places, you will almost always see an establishment Democrat who is running to the fucking right or desperately trying to run to the right-wing position. And if your goal is to normalize right-wing positions, then yeah, you're doing a great job. But if you normalize right-wing positions, the people on the ground are always going to vote for a right-winger. Okay? Florida is a great example of this. New York is a great example of this. Maxwell Frost won in Florida. How the fuck did Maxwell Frost, a fucking left-wing progressive Gen Z Zoomer, win in Florida while simultaneously Florida is deep fucking red? How did the head of the DCCC lose their fucking New York seat while AOC is crushing in her district? I thought AOC was unsafe. I thought AOC wasn't going back to her district enough. I thought she wasn't doing enough work. How does that happen? Stop running to the fucking right. If you run to the right for no fucking reason because you're fearful of the left, okay? If you're fearful of the left and this like leftist wave within the Democratic Party, and you run to the right and you galvanize the right-wing base and you actually legitimize their talking points, then all of a sudden, you know, an actual right-winger is going to win. Because you will never be able to out-patriot the right. You will never be able to out-racist the right. You will never be able to crime control the right. You will never be able to out-right-wing the right. John Kerry tried it. He got fucking owned, okay? He tried to be like, I'm a real patriot against George W. Bush. He got fucking owned. The Swift boat saga. George W. Bush destroyed him. You will never be able to out-hog the hogs. All you're doing when you try to out-hog the hogs is allow the hogs to gain ground on their rhetoric.
Large majorities out of opportunities, or do you want the candidate in 2024 who took an electoral college victory and a popular vote loss in 2016 and proceeded to turn that into an electoral vote loss and a popular vote loss in 2020, and then proceeded to give away 2 Georgia Senate seats in 2020, and then proceeded to give away many seats in the election of 2022? Listen, I thought that President Trump did many, many wonderful things as president. The question is, what do you think he's going to do as candidate Trump in 2024? How do you think he has impacted the Republican Party going forward? And what will he do to fix that? Is he capable of shifting and moving? Is he capable of commonsensical change? So far, he's not shown any evidence that he is. He's going to have to change that. He spent the days since the election ripping on Ron DeSantis, the most successful Republican governor of any of our lifetimes. Does that seem like a smart, intelligent, and well-calibrated move designed to draw independents in the future? Or does it seem narcissistic and divisive? Right? These are serious questions that must be asked moving forward, especially if you want to win the independents. The story of the last few election cycles is also how the independents voted. In 2016, undecided voters, day of the election, broke 2-1 for Trump. In 2020, undecided voters, day of the election, broke 2-1 for Biden. 2022, undecided voters broke halfway down the middle. They split. That shouldn't have happened. Republicans should have walked away with the undecideds. They didn't. That's a serious, serious problem. Moving forward?
Yeah. Make no mistake. This is true. And the reason why that's happening is because of Ben Shapiro. Like, if Donald Trump is responsible for that, which he is, so is Ben Shapiro. Like, it is wild that all of these fucking Republican media operatives are now acting like they haven't been running on their transing your daughter narrative non-fucking stop. And the reality is, like, they were running on this before Donald Trump ran for office, and they will continue running on it. He literally said that stuff is icing and it's good. Showing zero self-reflection. Brother, that's at a certain point, that is what is, you know, keeping people away.
Republicans will be presented with an opportunity because Democrats are not learning any lessons, because Democrats did better than they expected. Democrats believe they can do whatever they want. Joe Biden literally said this. He was asked, what are you going to change? He said, nothing.
What in the next 2 years do you intend to do differently to change people's opinion of the direction of the country, particularly as you contemplate a run for president in 2024?
Nothing, because they're just finding out what we're doing.
They're going to keep doubling down on the big spending, on the equity garbage, on the transing of the children. They're going to keep...
Yeah. Yeah, that's what the Democrats are running on. Transing your children and the equity garbage. Like, if Democrats leaned into that a little bit and like showed how fucking ridiculous Republicans are and cut equity, or equality rather, as the American dream, they would be wiping on the fucking policy front. These guys literally, they're you know, bread and butter, they're vegetables on the side of fucking steak with the dessert. Their vegetable part of the fucking conversation is literally calling equity garbage. calling equality out as a bad thing, especially at a time when so many Americans are suffering, dude. You're hitting the bell a little too hard on how shitty it is when, a government is doing the adequate things, the adequate measures.
Doubling down on the wild social radicalism. They're going to keep doubling down on the inflationary.
It's wild social radicalism to, expand child tax credits and eviscerate child poverty. You know what I mean? Like, genuine fucking dubs on the wonk side, on the policy side, that have truly had a tremendous impact, like a positive impact on people's lives, is actually a bad thing. Now, this is why I also always say, I don't fucking know if the Democrats will be able to fucking pull this off, because they're not very good at turning around and basically telling you, like, no, expanding child tax credits is a good thing. These people are fucking psychos. Look how little they have been talking about the student loan debt relief. They're not fucking screaming for the mountaintops, every mountaintop they can. Arkansas, Nebraska, Tejas, all of these fucking Republican safe havens have done their very best to have attorneys general go out and basically tell you, like, no, we're pieces of shit. We're literally going to fucking stop student loan debt relief from happening. Use that as an opportunity. Hammer that shit in. Where it's basically like, will the Republican Party implode before the Democratic Party offers them an out by being awful?
Policy and bad fiscal and economic policy that leads to stagnation. They're going to keep doing that sort of stuff. Republicans will get another bite at the apple. All they have to do is get sober and get serious and stop pretending that just because Democrats are bad, that means you can run whomever you want and that person will inevitably win. Wrong.
I want to say the same thing to the Democrats. Like, just because the Republican Party is imploding doesn't mean you can continue to fucking run to the right over and over again and offer these like weird lifelines to the Republican Party because you're more fearful of like a leftist majority in your House or in your fucking Senate or in your in your state legislatures. You can't stop running to the right. Stop running to the right. Stop running to the right.